Hello, my dear magic friends from India. I'm Dan Hauss from the United States, and I'm here to join Indian magician Bharath on his YouTube channel, Mallugic, to talk about magic and my journey in this field. So hope to see you soon.
Hello, my dear magic friends out there. I am Bharath, today's host, and welcome back to Mallugic, where you can find the exclusive interviews and lectures from great performers all around the world. So today's interview is really special because I got a special guest, and before I say his name, he is one of the most creative guys out there in the industry. He is one of the most prolific creator in the magic world. And talking about his creation, he has created a lot of effects in the magic world, and those effects are really unique. And more than being unique, those are really practical, and those are like very suitable for the real life workers and also for the hobbyists out there. And one of the special thing about this man is that he has actually created a lot of effects, but one of his effect is actually real. you know there are like many magic tricks out there, many magic creators out there, but I truly believe there is only very few magic effects in the industry, in the magic world, which is almost close to real magic, which is real. What I mean is that, for example, let's say we are doing ambitious card routine. I mean, we said, okay, if I snap my fingers, the card will jump to the top of the deck. Right. And it happens. But what we are saying is what we are not doing. For the audience, it is what we are doing, but that's not the case. We are using different methods. And for example, I say that, okay, there's a coin and the coin is disappeared. For the audience, the coin is disappeared, but that's not real. I mean, that's not what's happening, what we are doing. That's not what happened right there. But there is an effect called through and through. If you don't know, go and check it out. That's really brilliant. And that's one of the effects where he says that, okay, I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to push it through my hand. And what he says is actually what he does it, because that's real. That's crazy. So it's none other than Dan Hauss, ladies and gentlemen. So hi, Dan, how are you?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I'm
Thanks
doing
for having
good.
me, brother.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to have you. So I know that you are actually going through your hard time. So it's really great that you actually gave your valuable time and your effort for doing this interview. And I hope maybe our talk can make you feel better, like for your mental health as well.
It already is.
Yeah, perfect, man, perfect. And lots of love from India. So with that said, let's start the session. So
Cool.
yeah, I'm just gonna start the session by asking a very common cliche question. You know what I mean? I think you have already answered this question more than 100 times, at least minimum 100 times. So yeah, so let's start with the most common cliche question. How did you get started with magic?
I always joke and say girls, but my brother actually took me to a magic shop, and we used to buy gags and like the shocking pen and lighter. And then the guy sold me a magic trick. It happened to be at South Street Magic in Philadelphia. And I bought my first couple magic tricks, and I think I was hooked then, And then I met a couple friends that lived in Philly, and they're still two of my best friends today. And when I was doing the tricks, one day it clicked to me. I thought somebody has to create these tricks. So then that's when I took the other path, which we can get into later. But that's how I got into magic, pretty much, just going to the magic shop.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, so
not the most exciting answer.
All right, okay, perfect. So like I said, every person in this world cannot be a good magician. I mean, they can learn magic, but it doesn't make them magician. So in order to, like, if you go on YouTube and learn some magic, it doesn't make that person a magician. It makes that person knowledgeable. Maybe they can know the secret, that's it. But in order to become a good magician or a great magician, we have to deeply understand our art form, our craft. We have to read a book, we have to research a lot, and presentation, many factors are there. But also, every good magician or every great magician cannot be a magic creator as well. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I
because
agree.
then
totally
in
agree.
the world there will be like every professional magician will be magic creator. Even though, let's say, maybe they claim that okay, they created something, but at the end of the day, we are not sure that it's going to be a good effect or not. Maybe they will copy others and put out in the market. And we know that some magic companies I'm not going to name those, but we know that some magic companies only create effects for the camera. I mean, which are really dumb and stupid in real life, which are not practical. So talking about Dan Hauss is actually an amazing creator who actually creates unique and practical effects. in the industry. So how did you turn out to be a magic creator from being a magician? How was the path and journey from being a magician to a magic creator?
Yeah, so I started off performing, and I still perform. Like you were saying, you know, as much as I love stage magic, I would have to work extra hard to be a stage magician, as to where some people have that talent more than some others. As to where I created and came, it didn't come easy to me, but I had the knack for it. But like I was saying earlier, when I was doing the magic tricks, me and my buddies, we would sit around and we would try to figure out how to do it different, how to make it cooler, how to make it more presentable. And that's when we started dissecting magic. And then from there, I came up with a trick, and it snowballed from there. But a lot of time, and a lot of thinking, and no girls.
Yeah, that's actually true though. Like if you are having girls and chatting with them, flirting with them, our mind, we will get distracted. That's true. Yeah, we are just going back to where you said that you are talking with your buddies, chatting with your buddies, right? So what I'm going to ask you is it really necessary? I know that this sounds actually weird, because the question I'm going to ask you depends upon each person's comfortability, but I just want to know your perspective on this. So where you said that you were discussing like with your buddies and how to make it cooler. That's great though. But is it actually necessary for a magic creator to have a circle of magic friends who have that creative mindset, or we can be a great magic creator by our own, without the help of others?
I've come up with some of my best ideas by myself. But for instance, my two buddies, Dan White and Robert Smith, we pretty much grew up doing magic together. We met at the magic shop. So, I can create something, but Dan is really good at putting it together, as a presentation. And then Robert is really good at, part maybe gimmick, part, okay, maybe you don't have to do it. So it's nice to bounce ideas off of each other. But to get the core idea, I like to be by myself.
That's crazy. And
yeah.
And also, what's the purpose of yours while creating every magic? I will make it clear. So every magic creators in this world, every great magic creators in this world, while the process of discovering a method and putting it and making it as an effect, every magic creators have an intention. So let's say when some creators create an effect or discover a method to accomplish an effect,
Right.
maybe they think, okay, I want this to be visual, okay, and this should be self-working, and this should be, this should get great reaction. And then some effects are like, okay, it doesn't matter if this is visual, but this has to put a lot of work on it. This has to be done with sleight of hand. And
Right.
Some effects are like, damn crazy, but maybe angle restrictions are there. So
Right.
like every magic creators have their own intention and thought process while creating an effect. So when you create an effect, what's the purpose that you are thinking in your mind, or what's your intention? I mean, what's the thought process behind it?
So first I think of what I want to do, but a lot of times when I create something, it always comes by accident, so I'll be working on what I think I'm working on, but then something else happens and I go, oh wait, so it sends me another direction. But for me, the thought process is just not always, to me, simplicity kills. That's the way I always think of my magic. If you go back and look at all my tricks, they're really simple. See, now I'm not heavy with presentation. So a lot of my, the Restless DVD set that I had, it wasn't huge on presentation, and some people didn't like that. But my thought process was, here's the trick, you make it your own. So here's the trick, you make it yours. So that's my thought process when making it,
So yeah, so you don't rely, or you don't give so much emphasis on presentation. Rather than, you will create a great effect, put it out in the market, and we can take it, we can buy it, and we can adapt our own presentation into that effect, right?
Absolutely, yep. Because by the time I'm done creating it, I don't have I don't have that mental power anymore to just keep going. You know, sometimes you lose sight of what you're creating, and that's when friends come in, because you can be stuck on something so simple, and somebody says, "Oh, why don't you just do this?" And you're like, oh, "Why didn't I think of that?" But you're thinking so in depth when the answer is just so simple. So that's when it's good to get friends involved, I think.
And also, when I actually usually interview the great performers around the world, especially magic creators, they always tell me that, magic creation is all about problem solving. So first we have to think what I want to achieve. Then we created a problem, and then we are actually seeking for a solution in order to solve that problem. So some creators actually go in this way, and there are some creators, when they sit simply and they just randomly some idea pops in their head, and randomly, that's how. So there are like many different kinds of magic creators. So for you, is it like first you will think what you want to achieve, and then you will actually create a problem, then you will actually find a solution for that, or is it like randomly some ideas will come into your mind?
Yes, random ideas. Yeah, I'm usually all over the place, honestly, man. So, like I said, I think mostly every one of my tricks was I was starting one, probably gave up on it, and then tried something else or went a different route, and I go, oh, that might work with Rattled, with Flow,
Yeah.
with a few of them. You know, it was going one way, but went a completely different way. You know, so you never know. That's why I never give up on a trick.
So while creating through and through, what was your inspiration to create through and through? Because that is actually fucking
So
amazing. I mean, that's real, right?
I can't give myself credit like that. I didn't invent it. It's not something I invented. I got permission to do it.
Uh-huh.
So, right. Supposedly it goes back to acupuncture, like years and years and years back. They would demonstrate by doing that. So I just got permission to do it. And yeah, like you were saying, everybody thought it was a trick. And when they found out it was real, they were like, "Oh!" And then David did it
Yeah.
on his special, and that's where I learned from it. You know, so I don't want to take credit for that, but we are the ones that put it out. You know, and it was funny how there was so much hype, and they're like, "Oh my God, I wonder what the trick is," and they found out it wasn't a trick, and they're like, "No, I don't want to do that."
Yeah.
That's
So
probably the most. That's probably the most. I wouldn't want to call it a trick, but people reach out to me about that more than anything, and I'm so surprised, honestly, which is crazy.
I mean, the reason is very simple. That's real.
Yeah, that is real. That is
That is
real.
real. That's why. That's why. And so I just want to know, every magician or a magic creator have their own philosophy about magic, their own philosophy about magic creation. So how do you define magic, and what's your philosophy about magic?
You know, honestly, for me, it's just I don't. I really don't. You know, I like you said, I did my work. I did my studying. You know, I love the time when I learned, you know, from like the '80s magicians, you know, like Ackerman and just all those guys and Di Vernon and all. For me, I was always visual, so I couldn't. I would try to read the books, but for me, I'd have to see it to understand it. So for me, like I don't really get into the philosophy part of it, but for me, it's just having fun, you know, and making people from all different races, ages, come together for that just a little bit of time that they would never otherwise, and just to see them smile is, you know, honestly, is why I still do it to this day.
Perfect. And what do you think about this? So this is like something, I don't know if this is like going crazy or not, but we know that there are like now lot of variations of the same effects are there in the market, right? Lot of variations. So
Yes,
nowadays unique effects are very rare. I mean very rare, because a lot of
right.
effects are the like, okay, so this uses completely different method, and they just advertise it. They make a cool videos and put out the trailer. So a lot of effects are like the classic one, and they change it to the modern style and uses maybe different variation or different techniques.
Right.
So what's the like this is a blend of two questions. So my first question is it possible for a non-magic creator who is actually planning to start creating effect, is it possible for a beginner to create a unique effect? And my second question is that what's the best advice you can give it to those beginners in order to create some great effects?
So I think yes, a beginner can create something, but you are always standing on the shoulders of the giants. But for me, I knew from the very beginning that if you're going to put a trick out or put your mark on a trick, it has to be significantly different. You know, like you were saying, it can't just be, oh, I came up with a trick, but I use a red card. You can't do that. You know, my very first trick, not to get off track, but my very first trick was the incredible shrinking pinky. And that was based off of just an old effect, shrinking your pinky. Same thing with flow, you know, with the water bottle.
Water, yeah.
Yeah, I said to myself, this is already a great effect, but how can I make it even better to where the spectator can do it? You know, so you do have to take it to another level. You can't just say, oh, I used a blue card or a red card. So I think that's if you're gonna put a trick out, that's why I always try to stay completely different, you know, because if you do that, you know that you're not going to step on people's toes if you're being way outside the box, you know. So I think just being yourself and figuring out what works for you, because not the right rule, but when I first started magic, I wanted to be like David Blaine so bad, just like probably everybody does. And I realized I'm nothing like him. I sound nothing like him. I'm not as cool as him. And I was more goofy. So I was like, I'm just going to be who I am. And once I did that and decided that's when my character became to be, you know, that's when things started to come together for me. So for a beginner, I would say just be yourself and create a good effect. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And going back to the first question which I asked, is it possible in this modern world to create a really unique effect which is not been published before, released before?
That's tough. That's so tough. It's so tough. I don't think. I'm trying to think of I feel like I put out so much stuff. I feel like for me, I watch movies and TV and listen to music nonstop. That's where I get my inspiration from every day, just looking around. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from a trick, but it is really hard, I think, for somebody to come up with a original trick.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
and during your creative process, what actually give you like what you're giving more importance to? I mean, is it like in some effects the method might be very very easy and stupid, and in
right.
some cases those easy and stupid methods might be brilliant, and in some cases the methods might be very very tough. I mean, you know, and in some cases the methods might be very very, you know, like, you know, it's not like not at all practical at all. We feel like, okay, this is not practical and angle sensitive. So when you come up with a method, in your mind, is it like, do you want to become this should be easy, or do you want this to be easy and at the same time brilliant, or is it do you want to be like very hard? What's in your mind?
No, I think people that can come up with card magic and sleight of hand is brilliant. What's really funny is I create gimmicks for the most part, but when I perform, I don't really use gimmicks that much. But my mind doesn't, like we were talking about earlier, my mind doesn't work like sleight of hand. You know, I can do it and I love doing it, but I can't create it. So when I put out a trick, I know it's simple. And I also know some people are going to hate it or they're going to love it. You know, I came up with a trick before called Downfall. And the method I knew either was going to piss people off or they would go, oh my God, that's so stupid and simple, but genius, you know?
Yeah.
So I knew that there was no in between. So yeah, when I create, I definitely create simplicity.
Perfect. So yeah. So before we go on to the next question, let's watch one of your performance.
Oh, you want to? Well, yeah. Let me see if I can get up here high enough. So I was messing around with this earlier.
Yeah.
So one effect that I put out before was originally called REDLINE, and then we put out it was called Chapstick. All right, so here's a little performance of it. I'll try to get up a little bit higher. So Chapstick, right? Just in my pocket. The cat jumps back on. Right, try it again. Jumps back on again. I don't know what happens or why it works this way. It always baffles. Oh, wait. Hold on. Yeah. So it's just a little flippy stick move. Here, I'm going to try one more thing with it. Chapstick. We'll actually try to snap it in half. Slide one end down. And slide the other end down just like that. So the cat's actually in the middle now. It's a little weird. I know it's a little weird, but you can actually shake it and it'll go right back to the top. So yeah, that's something I was actually just playing around with earlier. And this was originally REDLINE, and we ended up putting it out called Chapstick. So it was like a kit you got.
Crazy fun.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now
I was trying to bring it up here.
yeah. So it's a kind of like weird. So yeah, let's come back to our session. So now we know that we are going through very tough time, pandemic, COVID. Yeah. So things have changed, effects have changed, the style have changed. So now everything is through this very small screen.
Right.
Virtual shows are like increasing tremendously, right? So before I ask you the question, let me ask you something. Are you doing online shows now? Are you planning to do online shows?
No, honestly, man. So what I've been dealing with and I don't mind if we talk about it, honestly, because a lot of people don't know. But for about a year, this has been going on. So I haven't been able to. It seems like within a year, I was diagnosed with cancer. Then the coronavirus hit. It seems like so much happened in a year that I didn't even have a chance to adjust to the online thing. And I don't know. I think I like it. I like what people are doing. People are getting creative, but I haven't even had the time to process it if it's something that I would do or could do,
Yeah, I totally get it. So what's your future plan then? I mean, after you recovered your health completely and when you come back in action, so what's your future plan and what's your future projects?
Well, before all this happened, so if we could rewind a little bit, not to get too off track, but I guess like 6 years ago is when I had a huge transformation in style. My character came to be. And I was really working on this great 1930s throwback show. So I would like to continue that, but just try to figure out how to incorporate it now of what's going on, all the safety issues. So I know there's places that I can do shows. It's just different now. Not as much interaction or touching, but that's where you got to be creative and work around things. So I'm excited for it, honestly, man. I haven't even had time to process it, but hopefully keep performing and keep creating.
Perfect. And we are actually waiting for your re-entry in this creative world.
Too, man. Me too. I'm excited.
Perfect. And yeah, so let me ask you something. So I know that you pretty much follow the Western style of magic, right? But how do you see the Eastern School of Magic and Western School of Magic, and which makes you think that this is more cool?
Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I was asking is that there is like Eastern School of Magic, the Eastern style, the Eastern culture. Yeah, and the Western culture, and that's what you do, right? I mean, you do it in a very Western style, like going to streets, close-up scenarios, and all. So when comparing with Eastern School of Magic and Western School of Magic, what do you think is more cool?
I love them both. I really do. Dude, I love magic so much. Like I used to, when I first started, everybody tries to figure out what they want to be, how they want to be. You know, you copy a lot because you're trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's a good thing for beginners. Take bits of what you like, because years later, it'll mold you into the person that you want to be. So, you know, before I used to not like using a 50-cent piece or a Mexican centavo or cups and balls. But then I started seeing people killing it with a corny prop. And it's just like, how am I going to hate that? This person's obviously showing that it can be done right. So that just opened up my mind and to magic even more. So I love it all. I really do. I love what everybody's doing. Doesn't necessarily mean it works for me, you know, or for you. You know, not everything will work for everybody. But, you know, everybody's so into comparing, and, you know, it's just let people be what they want to be and let them do what they want to do. Honestly, there's no wrong way.
Okay, fine. All right. And now let me ask you something about your creation. So you have actually created a lot of effects, and you have put out many things in the industry, in this magic world. And it's not like okay, so for Rattled I will take 3 months or 2 months to create this, and for Riot I will take 4 months, or for Flow I will take like, let's say it's going to take less than 1 month. It's not like that. I mean, we cannot predict the time period, that how many hours or how many days or how many months it will take to perfectly create an effect.
Right.
So in your experience so far, like so I'll put out some few questions. I just want to know, which was the effect which makes you go crazy while the creation process? I mean, crazy in the sense that not by fascinating the method that you explored, but to accomplish that effect using the perfect method. And which is your favorite creation so far?
Flow. Yeah, Flow by far.
Both. I mean, according to, in terms of the difficulty while creating the effect, and also favorite is Flow, right?
Yeah, it was because back in the day, I used to watch what went on the Magic Cafe. So I would read, because we would hype it up. You know, they would hype the trick up, and then you would read what people are thinking that it is. And man, there must have been pages and pages and pages of people saying, "I know what this is. I know what he's doing," and nobody was even close. So when I created Flow, when it first happened, I thought to myself, if this works, I know that I'm going to have a bestseller. I already knew it, but I didn't know if it'd work yet. So when I did it and it worked, I immediately stopped. I was like, calm down. Now I have to show Paul Harris. So if I show him this with a regular water bottle, it's not going to impress him. So I said, let me try to do it with a Gatorade wide mouth. I said, if it works with this, it's gonna fool him. So when I showed him and it fried him, I said, I know this is going to be a bestseller. So both method, going back to simplicity, right? Yes, simple, but also to get the ingredient right, to get it just perfect, to get that perfect formula. It takes months and months and months and months. So yeah, it could be very simple, but it still takes a long time to get it perfect.
All right.
And there has been times where I have rushed tricks out too quick, you know, and after I'm like, oh, I should have waited. But, you know, you get so excited. You're like, I just want to share it.
All right. So going back to the moment where you said that you wanted to be like David Blaine, but then I thought that I'm not cool as him, like him. So I need to find my own personality. So this is one of the important thing in the magic, because if you are trying to imitate others, it's not going to be good. I mean, like, we have to find our own unique personality. So in your experience, how can a beginner magician find their own unique personality instead of imitating others?
Well, for me, it took a while, you know, but I think going back to what we were saying earlier, taking little bits of what you like over the years, I think time molds you into the person that you are. You know, for me, it was meeting somebody that dressed in a vintage style. I had never done that before, but I liked it. I've always liked old music. So once I adapted that, I remember somebody saying you should always play the parts. So I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe I should just dress like this all the time. And it just worked for me. And it wasn't forced. I didn't feel uncomfortable. It just felt right for once. And I just stayed with that style. So I think once somebody finds their niche, it'll come naturally.
Okay. And which process you love the most? Is it like the creation process or the performing process? Both are very different, right?
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, you just create magic. It's like, no, I perform. I love performing on stage, which is funny because that's harder for me. Not big illusions, but I like taking my creations and performing them. But here's the funny thing: there's been things that I've created that I don't perform, but just because I don't perform them, I wanted other people to. So there are things that I've created that I don't. That's like, that's not my style. But I want the magic community to have
And
this.
it makes you happy, right? That like your creation and some other performers around the world are performing your creation, and that's what makes you happy, right?
Yeah, and performing it even better, which is like that's great.
So talking about the performance, there are many great performers. They use some formula, secret formula, which matches with their personality in order to get great reaction. For
Right.
example, let's talk about let's say David Blaine. Okay, so David Blaine style is like after he performs an effect, he don't he doesn't get excited. He's just
Right.
looking at the audience like that, and the audience go crazy, and still David Blaine is like, why these people are going crazy? I don't know.
Right.
Like what I
Right.
did. That's the attitude he have. Like I don't know what
But that
just
is,
happened.
but that people have over the years have said, yeah, but he doesn't say anything. I'm like, yeah, but that is performance. That is
That is
presentation.
performance. Yeah.
Like,
So
I
that
mean, I couldn't do that. Like, I sit there and stare at somebody, and they're like, "You're a creep," but he can do it because that is. There's only one of him.
yeah,
So
that's what actually sets him unique. And also, if some performers are like, for example, in order to gain reaction, I think Dan Harlan told me this that before the magic happens, if you are saying, what if I actually turn this card and this is the card which you are thinking, would you be impressed? So this is the one secret formula which we can use in order to gain reactions. That's what he told me. Because if you are saying, would you be impressed that if this is the card which you are thinking in your mind, they go, yeah, then we turn the card and bang, like they go crazy. I mean,
right.
so what's the formula that you use in order to gain great reactions?
I think that's a good question. I think just being down to earth on stage. I think that's the formula. I think being silly, um, um, being yourself. That is my formula.
Mm-hmm.
There's no big secret. It's just not talking down to the audience, but being with the audience is the best formula. And being on point, of course, and learning from your mistakes.
All right. So talking about the stage performance where you said, let me ask you something. So basically, there is a big difference in between the closet magic performance and the stage magic performance, and also the magic creation process. So let's say, for example, I'm just telling this in from my knowledge. Okay. So when we create an effect, a effect, we just have to only focus on that particular effect, and we just have to find the best way to pull it off.
Right.
But taking all those effects which we created and structuring an act on stage is a different ball game. So,
Right.
so according to you, when we actually take random effects, so let's say I'm taking a random, like I'm taking an effect from you which you created, and I'm taking an effect, let's say Cube 3 by Steven Brundage, or like let's say an effect by Gregory Wilson, or yeah, we are just taking random effects from the magic creators who actually put out on the industry, and I'm
Mhm.
taking all these effects and I have to now structure an act with that. I have to connect all these things. So there are two ways to do it. Basically, we can connect all these things together, or we can just randomize it and make it very entertaining with our presentation. So according
Right.
to you, when if you are going on stage and structuring an act with all your creations, or maybe different creations from the different creators, How do you structure it?
I have trouble doing that because I always want to do too much, you know. So for me, I had to learn how to cut down because I like to do a lot of quick tricks, you know. So I was like, all right, I'm doing too much. So first of all, for me, it's hard to structure, and because I want to put everything in from everybody, all the good stuff I want to put in my show. But then I started realizing, like, okay, I have to realize what works. See, the theme for my show was kind of like a time travel type show. So I had to start being like, all right, well, I can't do this trick because it's not really time period, right? Or maybe I could use this because I do travel through time, so it kind of makes sense. But for me, it's just figuring out what works for you and your show, not just, and I'm still learning this, not just trick, because that's what I was doing. A good friend of mine, Francis Minotti, used to have he has a great show, not used to, but he used to teach me how to, perform versus, just trick, you know. So I was watching him was such a huge inspiration and how he would flow from one thing to another. And so I started, honing in on that and figuring out what worked for me. And actually performing, like actually having a storyline to where at the end people be like, oh my God. Because I used to love that about his show. At the end of his shows, everybody would always go, oh, I remember that. It all tied together. And I'm like, I love that. So, it takes a while though, man. And I'm still working on it.
Perfect. So yeah, before we go into the next questions, let's watch another performance of yours.
Let's just do a rubber band one that I came up with. Maybe green won't work. Let's see it'll work. So this was my take on the crazy man's handcuffs.
Yeah, okay.
So you got your fingers locked in here, right? You got a rubber band over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this rubber band to penetrate through this one, right? Just using sleight of hand. So here we go. Goes right through, just like that. And then there's two methods of getting out, but then you can do just like that. Goes right back through. So that was just my little take on crazy man's handcuffs.
That's cool.
I had to challenge myself being friends with Joe Rindfleisch because he's like a beast at rubber bands.
Yeah, in rubber band magic.
For every one trick I would show him, for every one trick that I would show him, he would show me like 100. I was like, I gotta get better at this.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I gotta go. I'm nobody in front of this man, right?
We are surrounded by great magicians, man. We really are. Even the young generation. I haven't followed it as much, but I still see people putting out great magic. So man, we're blessed to have some really great magicians.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, as a magic creator, you cannot give advice to other magic creators like what to do. I mean, it's their comfortability, it's their decision, and it's their mindset for what to do. But with the experience as a magic creator, you can say what not to do, right? Like, you know what I mean?
To do, yeah.
You cannot always say what to do. Okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's not going to be good. But as an experienced magic creator, you can say what not to do. So if you are actually giving an advice to the beginners out there, magic creators out there, for what not to do, what it will be.
I think the number one thing is don't rip somebody off and think you're going to get away with it, because I've seen it too many times, and I've had people come to me and say, oh, I created this trick. And it's like, bro, I know that trick already exists, and I think the other thing is do your homework. Granted, you can't know every trick out there that ever has been around. So you could very well come up with something that's already been done. But for me, that's just a challenge, say, oh, okay, it's already been done. Well, let me see what else, what can I come up with, to take it to another level. So don't ever get discouraged, I would say. That's another thing. Just keep working at it. If you there's been plenty of tricks that I've come up with that somebody's like, oh, that's already been done. I'm like, no, I just spent so much time doing that. Paul Harris told me, he said, for every like 100 tricks, maybe one will be good. And that's the tough part, is deciphering what's good, because you want them all to be good, but they're not. So,
And the interesting thing is that it's only in the magic world, in the magic community, because the audience doesn't know any of this, or the audience doesn't know which method we are using it. So if, let's say, if we perform ambitious card routing using double lift, and another magician performs it with a top switch or a different method, whatever it is, doing a classic pass, whatever, for the audience it is the same. Effect is the
yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, you asked me about methods earlier, and simplicity and all that. My outlook has always been this, and I know a lot of people would disagree, especially like the hardcore, methods and sleight of hand people maybe, but the audience doesn't care. Yeah, the audience doesn't care how good, how good your top change is, or how good your pass is. That's for magicians. They just want to be entertained. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know. I used to I used to do this thing where I would say to a spectator, I would say, do you know what a pass is? As I was doing a pass, I would ask them if they knew what a pass was. While I was doing it, and they would go, no, and I would go, okay, never mind. But I would be around friends who are amazing at the pass. Alex Pandrea and all those guys are like phenomenal at it. And it is amazing. I'm mad that I can't do it that great, but it is amazing. But from my perspective, I was just kind of goofing and showing like, they don't care. They just want to be entertained, So, but that's why
I actually agree with you, because if you are good at extremely good at pass or not, it's only, it only matters in the magic community. It only matters in the magic scene. And if somebody is actually putting a lot of effort in order to gain perfection, then let him do it. I mean, it's because it's for the self satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I truly believe that it's not about how good we are in a specific move, but if we can pull it off without the spectators notice, then it is still great. And also, people are not going to remember all the tricks that we perform, but they are going to remember how we make them feel.
Dude, it's all about the interaction, man. It's all about the
it's
interaction.
all about, yeah, that's true.
When I get off the stage and people come up to me after the show and say how much they laughed, or how much they were touched by that, that's what's important to me. There's been times where I was on stage and I dropped my cards, but instead of panicking, it's, what did I do to get out of it? I made it into a joke. I'm telling you, it's just trial and error, and it's I feel like it's completely, you never stop learning. Method, performance, interaction, it's all just a learning process.
So yeah, we are actually going back to the where you said that how to get rid of the situation, you used to think like that. So when you said that, I actually got a question in my mind, that how do you see failures? I mean, failures are the nightmares for magicians, because it's actually interesting and very challenging. Because, for example, let's say a stage show is happening, then the host is coming and announcing a music band. Okay, then people will go, oh, we can rock and roll, and then they go like, they are killing it on stage. People are enjoying it. Yeah, let's say they are announcing a ventriloquist or like a dancer or whatever. People are gonna they are excited to watch. But when they announce a magic show, yes, of course, it is true that people are gonna excited to watch. But at the same time, most of them will be like, I want to figure out how this is done.
Of
And
course.
yeah, like they, at least some of the people might think in their mind that, okay, something should terribly go wrong, so then we can find it out. And then then it's not like majority, but then other people are like, okay, I don't want to find it out, I just want to watch and enjoy it. People like that also exist. So that's what I was saying, failures are the nightmare for magicians. So we can tell a magician if he is good or not by the way he get rid out from those failures. That's what I believe. So like, this is something which I'm actually asking as a general question, because I know how it is, but I just want to ask it in a general way. how do you get rid of failures? So there are like two ways. One is with the presentation, and one is to have a backup plan. So do you
Right.
always have a backup plan to overcome the failures?
No, no,
So then
no.
how do you do it?
To me it's presentation. Because at the end of the show, you want them at the end of the show to remember you. Yeah, they're gonna like the tricks, but you don't want them to go, oh, I saw a magician. Oh, what was his name? Oh, I can't remember. You want them to remember you. And as far as the failures, I failed so many times, but it's for me, they don't know what you're going to do to begin with. So what a lot of magicians do is they panic. They panic knowing what they were going to do. But the crowd has no clue what you were going to do. So they don't know if you messed up or not. They don't know if it's a joke. They don't know if it's a part of the show. So I think the most important thing is to just keep going with the flow. I feel like for more serious magicians, or for mentalists who are dead serious, if they mess up, it's a little bit more difficult because, if you're joking in your show, but you can play it off. Yeah, I messed up. Just play it off as a joke. But if you're a mentalist or somebody serious, then you better have a backup plan. Because if you start joking, they're gonna be like, "Why is he joking all of a sudden?" So, yeah,
That's
maybe that's
because
why
we
I
have to
became.
structure the
That's why I took
entire
the
act.
comedy route.
And yeah, that is true because in mentalism, yeah, not only in mentalism but in magic, but in mentalism it is crucial because we have to really be selective in terms of choosing the effects which suits our personality.
Yeah,
If you are
that's
being serious, we should not. Yeah, so that's what I meant. So
yeah.
let me ask you this: where do you actually? So this is kind of like, I know that you don't have that powers or anything like that. Nobody has that power or that vision to see the future. But I'm just
Right.
asking generally. I'm just asking generally. We know that the secrets are tremendously increasing on the internet, on YouTube, and everywhere. So let's say you do a rubber band trick, then people see. I truly believe that people are not gonna too much search on internet if you do it in the right way. So if you do it like in a way that, okay, I'm gonna challenge your intellectual capability, but I'm gonna fool you with this. So if you are only going in that direction only, they will have a thought to search it on YouTube or internet. But whatever, if someone is curious and then find out a trick after a performance, they can easily get it out from the YouTube or Vimeo or Dailymotion, like Torrent. Many platforms are there on the internet, right? So it's like exploding with like
Yeah,
everything. I mean, not only magic, everything, right? Not only magic, everything.
absolutely.
So yeah, where do you see the future of magic?
People used to ask me the same thing when they would watch the Masked Magician. They would always ask me,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about him?" And I would always tell people, I don't think anything about him. He doesn't affect my work. That is the good benefit of being a creator, though, is they're not going to find out your method unless Well, they can go on the internet, but even in my show, there's things that I haven't put out that are in my show, so they're not finding it anywhere. Um, but I think people just need to keep going forward. Just keep going forward. People could have found out the secrets anyway, anywhere if they wanted to hard enough. But for the most part, I think people just want to be entertained. So I think people need to just keep doing what they do. Don't worry about all
Yeah.
these secrets being revealed. It doesn't affect me at all.
All right. So let me ask you something from your life experience. Okay. So this is completely different. I mean, every magician cannot relate to this, like in your life. So
Mhm.
what I was actually thinking is that, see, usually when we don't get shows, or let's say, okay, let me make it clear. Let's say a magician is actually putting so much hard work, so much dedication, so much enthusiasm towards this art form. He's working
Right.
so hard day and night to make the industry much greater, to make the magic world even better. But
You're
let's
right.
say he's not even getting the right result, or let's say he is not getting the appreciation or recognition in the industry. Maybe he might be mentally down. But that's just The
Right.
response that's actually getting affected by other people's response, but it is not the same in terms of health. So when we
Right.
actually, physically and mentally, when we get down, it's really hard to get the right motivation to come back and to keep in track, to
All
come back
right.
on track and to come back in action, right? So that's what I meant. So different scenarios, like there are like people who backbitch you, people who actually throw stones at you, like that kind of stuff. But that's just actually we can solve those problems by the attitude towards the problem. We just have to change our attitude, right? But when we are like physically ill or when we are going through really hard time,
Right.
we feel like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I just need to give up. So in that kind of situations, how do you get the right motivation to come back in track?
Yeah. That's a really good question, man. I think for me, there's been things that I've gone through in
Mm-hmm.
magic, Um, I deal with anxiety. I deal with which is so crazy, and and I do magic, but I'm very introvert. I have horrible anxiety. So in all honesty, I've ruined a lot of opportunities because of that. I had good intentions, but I let anxiety get the best of me. And then for me, going through cancer, the whole cancer thing, something that serious wakes you up, to think, man, you're lucky. I'm alive. Um, it's a whole different mindset. I'm probably more motivated now than ever. I still have to get healthy, but it's like we only got one shot at this, so you better make it the best. So that's when I look at people like David Blaine and all, like there's something in certain people that are just, it's like, I'm going to be the best, and that's hard to do, but at least do your best. And I think that's what matters.
And are you still in touch with all those people who were in touch with you before?
Um, the people that are close to me, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You have your circle of friends, and that's all I
that
need.
that 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 actually yeah, that's true, because no matter what happens in life, no matter that is, it doesn't matter the ups and downs, the people who are close to you will be close to you. But actually what I was actually asking is that this is something which I am telling in my knowledge or my small experience. I don't know about you, but when we are constantly active in the industry, people used to message you. I mean, not the people whom we are very much close to, but
Mhm.
yeah, they are seeing our contributions to the industry. They are seeing our works, materials. They'll message you. But as this modern world, the social media genre, the social media industry is actually developing a lot. The interesting thing is that if you are not putting out, so this is, I'm just telling this in my knowledge, this can be totally bullshit, because let me say this. So if you are constantly putting out materials and videos and all, they will, strangers, not the people who are we are close to, because they are going to remember, they will remember us for their lifetime, but strangers who are following us will see us, will remember us. But when we stop putting out content, followers might reduce, and also they will we will slowly start to fade away from the social media. So
Right,
people are going to eventually stop. Like, at the beginning they will message you how you are doing, and eventually they will stop caring, and then they will forget about your existence, right? So
right.
do you ever had any experience like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is important to stay relevant, but it's funny because I always think man, I need to do something, or I need to put something out because there's a whole new generation now that probably doesn't even know who I am. But then I'll get messages from fans still,
Yeah,
and it just
like I
reminds me,
did.
like, okay, yeah, but that's good. It'll remind me, that okay, I still have it, but I just have to get back out there before I completely lose it.
Yeah. Let me
So
tell you something then. Let me tell you something. No matter what happens, or no matter if you're not putting out contents, or if you're not active on social media, the creations that you already published way back, it's still there. And it's not someone else, it's yours. It's by Dan Hauss. So
Yeah.
that will be there. That
Yep.
benchmark, you actually set it up. It will be there.
Yeah, I hope that I put the little imprint, on it.
Yeah. So
I think
anyway.
I still got a couple. I still got a couple more in me, man. I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting yet.
Yeah, okay, all right, yeah, understood. So, do you have anything more to perform, or we are just winding it up now?
Nah, yeah, that was it, man. That was it. Oh,
Okay.
you know what I did want? I did want to actually touch on something really quick. This is so seriously so stupid, and it's not even really a performance. But I got a wallet earlier. Um, it is it's the Mallugic wallet, and I was playing around with it, and somebody produced an 8-ball from it, and it got me thinking about the COVID and how performing's got to be different. So I started thinking earlier of how you can adapt to that, and as silly as it is, the little finger condoms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there used to be a trick where you would have a miniature wallet, and you would pull that out of your wallet as a joke. And I thought that's actually relevant now because you could actually pull those out, but it also serves a purpose for somebody, to pick a card now, So that's the way, you got to look at things now. Like, yeah, they were jokes before, but now they can actually serve a purpose,
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, with just one more question, we can end up the session. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about your great experience in Magic and the worst experience in Magic. So talking about worst experience, I mean in Magic, not in personal life. Okay. So
Right.
great experience means something that you will cherish forever in your lifetime, and the worst experience I meant is that failures happens. Like, we are human beings, we are not Superman, we are not like we don't have superpowers, so failure happens, and some failures, it will haunt us. Sometimes, I mean, like, oh, like,
Yeah.
that feel. So tell us about your great experience and the worst experience in Magic.
So my best experience still to this day will always be meeting David Blaine. I got it's like our Houdini. He's like our Houdini.
Yeah.
The very first time I met him, I went there and it was him, Paul Harris, and Bill Kalush, and I was just like, there's like my idols here. So that's probably one of my best experiences, and in all honesty, holding on to my close friendships with the magicians that I've become friends with, and just it's still crazy to me when I say it, but having fans all around the world is amazing, and that's why I do magic, to make them happy. My worst experiences, I won't get into the details, because they're things that I regret doing, or bad decisions, which there's been a few, and it's a shame because it was all for the wrong reasons, So there are things I'll just have to live with and correct, and not repeat the same things over and over, So just be a better person to the magic community, So that's really it, man.
Perfect. So with that being said, thanks a lot, Dan, for this valuable time you had given us for this interview. Yeah, so anyway, thank you so much for this valuable time you had given us. I really appreciate the time you had taken for this interview. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.